Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Today I've titled my sermon, The Secret is Christ. The secret is Christ. In him lies all God's hidden treasures of wisdom and knowledge. And in his relationship, we see the greatest sacrifice of all, his Son, love. What is love? When I looked at the Bible, love started at the beginning in Genesis and only ended in Revelations. And we don't have enough time for that. So, we're going to look at it very briefly. Many of us know that we are given 4 types of love, and there's another list that says 8 types of love. But we are often told that with their storage, empathy love, eros, romantic love, agape, unconditional love, and philia, the brotherly love. And that's an important one, because that philia is a two-way love. If we look back at Genesis, the Spirit of God hovered over the waters, and God said, "Let there be light." But the words light, love, and the word in Hebrew are often interchangeable. And Christ is called the light of the world. All things came from love, from God, his Father. The beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. In John, he tells that love is from God, yet I think we have lost the truth about love. We've lost its real meaning. Today we're so caught up in feelings, feeling good, feeling love, that we forget that God is love. We've lived as well as learned that love for someone else or something else is what's important. But it's not that. Love of God and God's love for us creates love in us, just as he breathed his spirit of love into us. Love for him, love for ourselves, and love for others. It can be an all-consuming, empowering force that lives in each one of us when God has breathed into us his spirit. Now, when I was a young child, which was just after the dinosaurs ruled the earth, Linda Ronstadt sang a song, and she said, "Love is a rose, but you better not pick it. It only grows when it's on the vine." And I thought to myself, that is so true. If we remove ourselves from the vine, which is Christ, we die. We have to stay connected, attached to the love of God. And then Conway Twitty, he was one of my mom's favorite, he sang, "Some say love is like a river that drowns the little reed." And I think many of us have felt that way. We've loved someone so much, or they've loved us, and then everything else gets drowned out. Then he goes on to say, "Love is like a razor that leaves the soul to bleed." We felt that as well. We've lost someone we love. They've gone away. They've died. We've broken up. We've divorced. But that's not the love that God is talking about. Some say love is a hunger, an endless and aching need. That's not love either. The last line of that verse say, "I say love, it is a flower, and you, its only seed." So which is the only seed? Christ. Christ is the seed. Christ is the root of all love. Christ is the secret. So true, To truly love, we must first find God. Love is rooted in an awesome spiritual connection with God, and that is what Jesus came to show us. His Father loved him so much, but was willing to sacrifice his only Son that we could get back into relationship with God. And in Matthew, as we heard today, he said, "The greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind." That is not a passive love. And he said, the second is like unto it. You shall, not you should, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. So how do we love God? We have to love with our whole heart, that's feeling, our whole soul, that's our being, that breath, that love that he instilled in us, and with our minds. We have to have the knowledge of God's love and that connection. We have to have the knowledge of his sacrificial love to us. No one should seek for their own good, but for the good of others. Corinthians. We should all show hospitality to strangers. You shall not wrong an alien, for you yourselves were aliens. Sometimes we're self-centered, and that's kind of what psychology says today. Get to know yourself, get to love yourself, because you can't love anyone else unless you love yourself. Well, that's not quite how it works, and if that's what we believe, we've missed the point of God's love. He didn't say love yourself first, and once you can love yourself, love others. He said, I loved you first. Therefore, I've given this love to you to share with others. He also said, look beyond yourself. Look to Christ, because Christ has brought that love to us in the fulfillment of his death and resurrection. Sometimes we're not ready to love other people. But because we have God's eternal love inside of us, we can do it. Sometimes we're not very kind to ourselves, and that's where self-love comes in. It's not a selfish love, it's self-love. If you've ever been on an aeroplane, you know, they say, when there's no air, when there's no breath, this thing is going to drop from the sky, and you must take it and pull it and put it over your face and mouth and adjust it so it's nice and tight. But they go on to say, if you have a young child with you, you put it on yourself first. Because if you do not take care of yourself, if you do not know your worth, if you do not have your breath, you cannot help your child. And it's the same in the world. If we do not have the breath of God in us, if we do not take care of ourselves and become open vessels for God, we cannot help our neighbors. So we need to keep in total and constant communion with God. We have to see in ourselves the worth that God sees in us. And we need to see that worth in every single human being that we meet. No matter how rich or poor, how well or sick, no matter what country they come from, no matter what culture. Not one human being here on this earth is worth more than another, for we are all precious in God's sight. When we lack self-love, we are unable to see what God has created in us. We are unable to see the talents he has given us. And the depth of love, which he says is like a river that is rising up inside us, a river of love, a river of life. We work too much on the inward. And I do have a story for you today. And the story I've chosen is from Texas and Wyoming. When I was first teaching in New Hampshire, I fell in love with an author and an illustrator. His name was Tommy DePaulo. And many of you have read his beautiful legends. And the legend I want to review today is called The Indian Paintbrush. So I'm hoping most of you know it. And if the little kids don't know it, I bet your mom and dad can find it in the library and read the whole story to you. The story starts with a little Indian boy, and we shouldn't really call him Indian because he's not from India, but he was one of the first people of this country. And as he was growing up, everyone called him Little Gopher. Now, I would kind of be offended if someone called me Little Gopher, because that means you're under the ground digging holes all the time and no one sees you, except when you pop your head up and then everyone wants to hit it. So, poor little Gopher, he wanted so much to be like all the other boys. They were riding their horses, they were shooting their arrows, they were running in the fields, they were hunting, and he just could not keep up. And he was very lonely and very sad about it. But he went on. His parents were worried about him too, as many of us parents worry about our kids when we see them not quite fitting in. So he went on a vision quest. And for us as Christians, that would be kind of like a spiritual retreat where we look inside of ourselves. And on this vision quest, he saw a vision, and he was told by the great-grandfather that his talents didn't lie in riding horses and shooting bows and arrows. His talent lay in creating art, beautiful, beautiful art. And since a young child, he had always tried to do that. He'd crushed berries to make paint. He'd put little pieces of leather together to make little warriors. He painted pictures in the sand. And so in his vision, 3 people appear. A young maiden who brings him this beautiful, beautiful white piece of skin. And she says, you must keep this because one day you are going to paint all the colors of the sky on this. And then the old grandfather that he saw gave him pots of paint and brushes and said, these are the tools that you are going to use to express yourself and what I've created you to be. Those 2 people of the 3 gave him such a gift. And the 3rd person, or the 3rd vision that he saw, was the clouds in the sky. So these were the tools he was given for his talent. And he was so excited about them that he ran back to the circle of people, his family, our church family. He ran back because he wanted to share them with all those in his family. And every day after that, he would go up to the high hills and he'd look at the sun setting as the night sky grew dark. And he would see all these beautiful colors, and he tried for years and years to capture those colors, and he couldn't. He couldn't. So he started painting pictures of the life of his people. He painted beautiful pictures. He never touched his white skin, his white canvas. The hunters, his old friends, would bring him skins from their hunts, and he would paint on them the wars and the great things that happened in the tribe. And after many years, he one day found his white buckskin. And he was about to paint, but he could not find the right colors. So he went into the mountains, kind of like Moses. He went into the mountains to look at the real sunsets, to commune with nature, to see the love of the world. And when he got into the mountains, there he stood at the top of the mountain, and before him were these pots of beautiful paint and all these brushes, and the voice said to him, "This is what you're going to use. I'm going to provide the colors and the brushes for you." And so, when he'd gone to bed that next night, he put down his brushes. He put down his brushes and he walked through the sunlight. And he was able to start painting on that white skin. using the brushes and the paint that God had provided for him. And from then on, he had the people seeing the colors of the sky. So little Gopher had his name changed. But there are some important things that we can draw from this story. He truly knew himself. He was in direct contact with God's beautiful creation. He was supported by the circle of people. He was patient with himself for many years. He learned and he grew. And he always went back to that circle of people, and he always went back to those high mountains to commune. And there, most of all, he gave back what he had received. So I'd like to close today in prayer. So if we calm our souls, calm our spirits, and we say, dearest Lord, may I be a blessing to my neighbors, not just those who are close to me, but also those who I communicate that are far away, and those I meet today who I do not know. May I be the Good Samaritan to someone today. Move me in compassion that I become the bearer of good. Consume my soul with kindness and remove all negative thoughts from me. Give me strength to live by your commandment of love. Love for you, O God, and love for my neighbor that comes from myself, filled with you, with your love. Guide me through Christ and through Christ, for all things are possible with him. May I not close my heart to those who are in need. May I share the blessings I receive from you with those who have less. May I never lose sight of how to love. May Christ renew me each time I lose sight of his commandment of love, and bring me back to the path he has prepared for me. May the people I meet in this path become opportunities for me to live the teachings of Christ. Lord, I ask that you open my heart, open all our hearts, to receive genuine love from your commandments. Teach us, O Lord, to love you first above all else, to love our neighbors as I love myself. May I always keep sight of the very core of your commandment of love. Allow me to desire the best for my neighbors, just as I desire the best for me. For that is your desire. Grant us peace of mind, success in our endeavors, happiness in seeking your love. May we do everything with love. And I want to close with the words from a song written by Sister Miriam Teresa. Spirit of God, in the clear running water, blowing to greatness the trees on the hill. Spirit of God, in the finger of morning, fill the earth, bring it to birth, and blow as you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be the breath of your spirit blowing.